Good morning. Good morning. Welcome or welcome back to Bookeemonsters. My name is PK. It is Tuesday, June the 18th, and we are here to look at new releases. We do this every day of the week, Monday through Friday, and each day we look at a different genre. And on Tuesdays, we look at mysteries and thrillers. On Mondays, we look at cozy mysteries. Tuesdays, the grittier side of mysteries. Wednesdays, we look at romance. Thursdays, fantasy and science fiction. Friday is Freeform Friday. This Friday, we're going to be looking at some more historical mysteries. For the readathon, I am hosting the Midsummer Hist Mist. So today, let's look at some of the new releases. Quick announcements. I do have sprints tonight at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern. I do them every Tuesday and Thursday evenings and Saturday afternoon at 1 p.m. Mountain Time, 3 p.m. Eastern. Kim says, Good morning. Good morning, Kim. How are you doing? Hopefully, you're still in bed. All righty. So, the first one we're going to be looking at today is actually a historical mystery that I purchased and we forgot to mention yesterday. It's by Claudia Gray. It's the third in the Mr. Darcy and Miss Tilney mysteries. This is The Perils of Lady Catherine de Bourgh. This author uses all the characters of Jane Austen books, and has mashed them together. But the two main characters are children of the main Jane Austen actual characters, and they solve some crimes. And it's actually pretty interesting. And this author is doing us all as a great service by killing off or dealing with some of the nasty characters in Jane Austen's books. Someone is trying to kill Lady Catherine de Bourgh. Okay, anyway. Esteemed aunt of Mr. Fitzwilliam Darcy, generous patroness of Mr. William Collins, a woman of rank who rules over the estate of Rosings Park with an unimpeachable sense of propriety, who would dare? Lady Catherine summons her grandnephew, Mr. Jonathan Darcy, and his investigative companion, Miss Juliet Tilney, to find out. After a year apart, Jonathan and Juliet are thrilled to be reunited, even if the circumstances, finding whoever has thus far sabotaged Lady Catherine's carriage, shot at her, and nearly pushed her down the stairs, are less than ideal. Also less than ideal, their respective fathers, Mr. Fitzwilliam Darcy and Mr. Henry Tilney, have accompanied the young detectives to Rosings, and the two men do not interact with the same felicity enjoyed by their children. With attempts against Lady Catherine escalating and no one among the list of prime suspects seemingly capable of committing all the attacks, the pressure on Jonathan and Juliet mounts, even as more gentle feelings between the two of them begin to bloom. The race is now on to provoke two confessions, one with the attempted murders before it's too late, and one perhaps a love. Like I say, I do enjoy that series, and it's a clever twist on all the Jane Austen stuff out there. And like I say, she's doing us a favor by killing off people like Mr. Wickham. Yes, woke up yesterday to watch and promptly went back to sleep. Oh, that sounds lovely though. I would too. I'm a morning person, but on weekends, I gotta admit, I sleep in an extra hour, hour and a half. My alarm goes off at 5, Monday through Friday. And it's just nice to get that little extra time. So a lot of the ones today are thrillers. This is Little Rot by, dang it, I looked it up. Akwake Amazi, I think. Uh, One weekend, the elite underbelly of a Nigerian city, a party that goes awry, a tangled web of sex and lies and corruption that leaves no one unscathed. On the other spectrum from the previous book, Aima and Kalu are a longtime couple who have just split. When Kalu, reeling from the breakup, visits an exclusive sex party hosted by his best friend Ahmed, he makes a decision that will plunge them all into chaos, brutally and suddenly upending their lives. Ola and Soryea, two Nigerian sex workers visiting from Kuala Lumpur, collide into the scene just as everything goes to hell. Sucked into the city's corrupt and glittering underworld, they're all looking for a way out, fueled by a desperate need to escape the dangerous threat that looms over them. I apologize, I didn't click on the tab. So while I make a comment, we'll sit here. I find this refreshing because most mysteries set in other countries like this, like Nigeria, are more, I'm not going to say primitive, but set in underprivileged, and you get the impression from a very lofty view. Whereas this, and it's very true, there are people in these countries who live very much like the bigger cities. So I appreciate that and have the same kind of thriller issues. Parties coming together and being killed off. Thankfully, I woke back up for a friend from church's Bible study. She does lives on Facebook on Monday. Oh, nice. Riley Sager has a new one, Middle of the Night. And once again, this will be a thriller. A man must contend with the long ago disappearance of his childhood best friend and the dark secrets lurking just beyond the safe confines of his picture perfect neighborhood. The worst thing to ever happen on Hemlock Circle occurred in Ethan Marsh's backyard. One July night, 10-year-old Ethan and his best friend and neighbor Billy fell asleep in a tent set up on a manicured lawn in a quiet, quaint New Jersey cul-de-sac. In the morning, Ethan woke up alone. During the night, someone had sliced the tent open with a knife and taken Billy. He was never seen again. 30 years later, Ethan has reluctantly returned to his childhood home. Plagued by bad dreams and insomnia, he begins to notice strange things happening in the middle of the night. Someone seems to be roaming the cul-de-sac at odd hours, and signs of Billy's presence keep appearing in Ethan's backyard. Is someone playing a cruel prank? Or has Billy, long thought to be dead, somehow returned to Hemlock Circle? The mysterious occurrences prompt Ethan to investigate what really happened that night, a quest that reunites him with former friends and neighbors and leads him into the woods that surround Hemlock Circle, woods where Billy claimed ghosts roam and where a mysterious institute does clandestine research on a crumbling estate. The closer Ethan gets to the truth, the more he realizes that no place, be it quiet forest or suburban street, is completely safe, and that the past has a way of haunting the present. What I find refreshing about that is that it's from a guy's point of view. It seems like it's always a female. What a twist. The Helper by M.M. DeWill. This is an award-winning Hollywood writer and director. Mary Williams, faced with unexpectedly losing her job and the possibility of losing custody of her daughter as well, answers an unusual help wanted ad. When an ailing man offers her an outrageous proposal that could solve all her problems, Mary takes fate into her own hands and accepts, agreeing to the extraordinary thing this man is asking. It's a decision that changes everything. Because what Mary thought was true is in fact a lie, and now she faces a new reality that is far more disastrous than anything she could have imagined. Lucy Foley also has a new one. Apparently lime green, neon green is the new thing. The Midnight Feast. Secrets, lies, murder. Let the festivities begin. It's the opening night of the manor, and no expense, small or large, has been spared. The infinity pool sparkles. Crystal pouches for guests' healing have been placed in the seaside cottages and woodland hutches. The manor mule cocktail, grapefruit, ginger, vodka, and a dash of CBD oil, is being poured with a heavy hand. Everyone is wearing linen. But under the burning midsummer sun, darkness stirs. Old friends and enemies circulate among the guests. Just outside the manor's immaculately kept grounds, an ancient forest bristles with secrets. And the Sunday morning of opening weekend, the local police are called. Something's not right with the guests. There's been a fire. A body's been discovered. The founder, the husband, the mystery guest, the kitchen help. It all began with a secret 15 years ago. Now the past has crashed the party, and it'll end in murder at the Midnight Feast. I don't know, I'm kind of more drawn to the Riley Sager at this point. If I'm in the mood for thriller, and I don't think I'm in the mood for a thriller at the moment. The Nature of Disappearing. Got a tickle in my nose. This is by Kimmy Cunningham Grant. A wilderness guide must team up with the man who ruined her life years ago when the friend who introduced them goes missing. All these missing friends. Emlyn doesn't let herself think about the past. How she and her best friend Janessa barely speak anymore. How Tyler, the love of her life, left her half dead on the side of the road 3 years ago. Her new life is simple and safe. She lives alone in her Airstream trailer and works as a fishing and hunting guide in scenic Idaho. Her closest friends are the community's makeshift reverend and a handsome Forest Service ranger who took her in at her lowest. But when Tyler shows up with the news that Janessa is missing, Emlyn is propelled back into the world she worked so hard to forget. Janessa has become a social media star, documenting her #van life adventures with her rugged boyfriend. She hasn't posted lately, though, and when Emlyn realizes the most recent photo doesn't match up with its caption, she reluctantly joins Tyler to find her old friend. As the two trace Janessa's path through miles of wild country, Emlyn can't deny the chemistry still crackling between them. But the deeper they press into the wilderness, the more she begins to suspect that a darker truth lies in the woods, and that Janessa isn't the only one in danger. Got some big names today. The Next Mrs. Parrish by Liv Constantine, which is a sequel to The Last Mrs. Parrish. Daphne and Amber Parrish are thrust back into each other's lives upon the resurgence of a long-forgotten threat, forcing a vicious game of cat and mouse, where everything is on the line. Amber Patterson Parrish has come a long way. Hard work and immaculate planning turned her from invisible wallflower to prominent socialite, though there have been bumps along the way. Less than a year after her husband Jackson's tax evasion scandal, Amber reigns supreme over the Bishop's Harbor community. But with Jackson being released from prison, Amber's free time and money is vanishing. Meanwhile, Daphne Parrish left Bishop's Harbor after her divorce from Jackson, swearing she would never go back. But when one of her daughters runs away from home, desperate to see her father, Daphne agrees to return to the summer for her daughter's sake. Jackson swears he's a changed man, but Daphne knows all too well that he can't be trusted. When a ghost from Amber's past emerges looking for revenge, these three figures find unlikely allies in one another. But who is playing who? When all is said and done, to whom? They'll have to fight tooth and nail for everything they have left in this zero-sum game. See, all these rich people, they wind up in thrillers. It's good not to be rich. What You Leave Behind by Wanda M. Morris. A lawyer who, after the mysterious disappearance of a local landowner and the death of his sister just months before, uncovers a conspiracy that dates back to Reconstruction and persists in half the United States today. Dina Wood's life has fallen apart in the aftermath of losing her beloved mother, her marriage, and her prestigious job at an Atlanta law firm. She needs what the Geechee people of coastal Georgia call a day clean, a fresh start. She returns to her childhood home in Brunswick, Georgia to heal. But her return is anything but the respite she thought it might be. To make peace with all her loss, she often drives through the city. One day, she unwittingly finds herself on the oceanfront property of a loner widower who is fighting to keep land that has been in his family since the end of the Civil War. He threatens her and warns her to never return. But shortly after, he disappears, and his very expensive property is quickly put up for sale. He's not dead yet. Curious about what has happened to the man, Dina digs into his disappearance and finds a family legacy at risk. What starts out as a bit of curious snooping turns into a deadly game of illegal land grabs and property redevelopment in poor and rural communities with dark and powerful forces at work. Without realizing it, Dina finds herself caught up in a nightmarish scheme that threatens her community and her family. She'll need help and finds it in a close but unlikely source because she knows she must do whatever it takes to stop the sinister forces at play before she becomes their next target. Nanny Wanted by Lizzie Barber. A remote Cornish mansion, the perfect couple, and the deadly secrets that bind them. When Lily finally leaves her toxic relationship, a job as a nanny at Cooney Manor seems like the perfect solution. There, she can cut herself off from her old life and never have to see him again. The Rose seem like a model family, and Lily falls instantly in love with her new home. But she can't help feeling that something isn't quite right. Why will nobody tell her about the nanny who came before her? Where does Laurie go at night? And what does Charles really want? As Lily becomes increasingly entangled in the Rose lives, she realizes that the perfect family may not be all that they seem. And as much as she fears the past she is running from, perhaps the present is where the real danger lies. Death in the Air by Ram Murali. It's funny, all the books and movies that the blurbs mention so that you will read it. It's always Knives Out. This is The White Lotus meets Knives Out meets Crazy Rich Asians. Ro Krishna is the American son of Indian parents, educated at the finest institutions, equally at home in London's poshest clubs or on the squash court, but unmoored after he is dramatically forced to leave a high-profile job under mysterious circumstances. He decides it's time to check in for some much-needed R&R at Samsara, a world-class spa for the global cosmopolitan elite nestled in the foothills of the Indian Himalayas. A person could be spiritually reborn in a place like this, even a very rich person. But a person, or several, could also die there. Samsara is the Sanskrit word for the karmic cycle of death and rebirth, after all. As it turns out, the colorful cast of characters Ro meets, including a misanthropic politician, an American movie star preparing for his Bollywood crossover debut, a beautiful heiress to a family jewel fortune that barely survived partition, and a bumbling white yogi inexplicably there to teach meditation, harbors a murder among them, maybe more than one. As the death toll rises, Ro, a lawyer by training and a sleuth by circumstance, becomes embroiled in a vicious world under a gilded surface where nothing is quite what it seems, including Ro himself. Actually sounds kind of intriguing. Jack Carr, Red Sky Morning, seventh in the Terminal List series. You think you know James Reese. Think again. A storm is on the horizon, America's days are numbered. A Chinese submarine has gone rogue and is navigating toward the continental United States, putting its nuclear missiles within striking distance of the West Coast. A rising Silicon Valley tech mogul with unknown allegiances is at the forefront of a revolution in quantum computing and artificial intelligence. A politician controlled by a foreign power is a breath away from the Oval Office. Three seemingly disconnected events are on a collision course to ignite the power grab unlike anything the world has ever seen. The country's only hope is a quantum computer that has gone dark, retreating to the deepest levels of the internet, learning at a rate inconceivable at her inception. But during her time in hiding, she has done more than learn. She has become a weapon. She's now positioned to act as either the country's greatest savior or its worst enemy. She is known as Alice, and her only connection to the outside world is to a former Navy SEAL sniper named James Reese, who has left the violence of his past life behind. Will there be blood? Count on it. Shadow Heart by Meg Gardner. Fourth in the unsub novels. FBI Special Agent Caitlin Hendricks faces a case from nightmares. In a Tennessee prison, Ephraim Judah Good draws haunting portraits of women he claims he has killed. Around the country, desperate families of the missing seek answers in his eerie drawings. And on darkened back roads in New York City streets, a new killer poses duct tape bodies at the sites of Good's murders. Two serial killers are locked in a twisted rivalry. To stop the brutal slayings, FBI profiler Caitlin Hendricks must unravel the connection between Good and the broken heart killer. Their warped competition destroys anyone in their path. Caught between a manipulative psychopath and a ruthless unsub, Caitlin has to dive into not one, but two dark and twisted minds. She will risk everything, plunging into the depths of a depraved clash to hunt down an unstoppable killer. And this last one I included is a Western, but it had some elements that would include it today. Plus, it's by Lauren Esselman, which is a mystery author. Iron Star. From his youth as a revolutionist to his time as a deputy U.S. Marshal, aging lawman Iron St. John has become a larger-than-life figure, and in the process, the man has disappeared behind the myth. During his brief, unsuccessful political career, St. John published his memoirs, a sanitized version of his adventures to appeal to the masses. A generation later, the clouded truth of this giant of the Old West has been all but lost. Now Buck Jones, a pioneering film star, is vying for a cinematic story that will launch his career to incredible heights. He approaches Emmett Rawlings, a retired Pinkerton detective, to set the record of St. John's life straight once and for all. 20 years ago, Rawlings accompanied St. John on his final manhunt, and in desperate need for the funding a successful book promises, he dives deep into St. John's past and his own buried memories to tell the truth about his part-time hero. As the story of St. John unfolds, the romance of the period is stripped away to reveal a reality long forgotten in this unvarnished, heart-racing depiction of the American West by this author. All right. That is all we have for today. So tomorrow we'll be looking at romance. We do have sprints tonight at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern. They'll go for 2.5 hours. I do every Tuesday and Thursday evening and Saturday afternoons. Excuse me. Hope you have a very good day. Please take care of yourselves, read good books, and as the banner says here, don't be a bookworm, be a bookie monster. Nom nom. Have a good day and God bless.